"Dad, they're trying to scam you." Those words came out of a 9-year-old girl's mouth like a lightning bolt splitting the air, freezing every adult in the room. Her voice trembled, but it carried enough weight to stop a billionaire's pen an inch above a contract that could have cost him everything. This isn't a fairy tale. It's the kind of story you'd hear over black coffee, and a long sigh, a father who thought he'd seen it all, and a little girl who proved him wrong. Ethan Carter wasn't born into wealth. He built it brick by brick, deal by deal, long nights on cheap takeout, and days that blurred together in boardrooms that smelled like leather and ambition. By the time he was 60, he had sold off parts of his empire, keeping just enough to live comfortably and spend time with the only person that mattered now, his daughter Lily. She was 9, sharp as a tack, with a head full of messy curls and a curiosity that could make a detective sweat. She reminded him of her mom, Claire, who had passed 3 years earlier, leaving a hole in his life that not even $1 billion could fill. These days, Ethan preferred the quiet of his countryside estate, where mornings were filled with pancakes and crossword puzzles, not power suits and conference calls. That morning had started just like any other. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the breakfast room, painting golden squares on the oak table. Lily was working on a jigsaw puzzle, mumbling about how whoever invented it clearly hated kids, while Ethan sipped his coffee and pretended to read the paper. Then his phone buzzed. An unknown number. He almost ignored it. Retirement had taught him peace was worth more than deals, but something in him made him swipe answer. His expression shifted as he listened, first curious, then serious, his voice low. He stood, excused himself, and disappeared into his study. The door clicked shut, and for Lily, that was the first warning bell. Dad didn't walk away from breakfast like that. He always made a joke after business calls, something like, "Can't they let an old man rest?" But not this time. Later that evening, he told her he was heading into town. Just a quick meeting, he said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Lily didn't push, but her gut told her something was off. Over the next few days, his mood changed less. Laughter, more time on the phone, distracted glances at papers he didn't explain. And then came the sleek black car that rolled up their driveway like it belonged there. The man who stepped out was every bit the picture of power. A perfectly tailored suit, cufflinks that caught the sunlight, and a smile polished enough to blind you. He introduced himself as Adrian Locke, an executive from a European investment group, and he made himself comfortable in Ethan's home like he'd been there 1,000 times before. Lily watched from the top of the stairs, peeking through the banister, as Locke spoke in smooth, syrupy tones, praising Ethan's old shipping company, talking about legacy and global opportunities. His words sounded like honey, but his eyes never once looked up at her. That alone made her skin crawl. At dinner, she asked her dad who the man was. "A businessman," Ethan said casually. "He's interested in buying an old asset of mine." Lily frowned. "Why now?" He hesitated, then shrugged. Sometimes timing's just right. She wanted to believe him, but something about Locke's confidence bothered her. That night, she whispered into the darkness of her bedroom, "I don't like him." Over the next few days, Locke returned, this time with a man in glasses he called his legal advisor, and a woman who typed silently on a laptop. They brought thick folders, glossy brochures, and talked about market shifts and shareholder growth. Lily pretended to draw in the corner while her father listened. What struck her wasn't what they said, it was what they didn't. Locke spoke in circles, using big words that danced around specifics. He smiled too much. He was too comfortable. And every time Lily's gaze met his, he offered her nothing but a curt nod, as if kids weren't worth acknowledgement. That dismissal lit a fire in her. When Locke left one afternoon, Lily crept into her father's study. She opened one of the folders he'd left behind and spotted a faint watermark at the top of a page, Northbridge Holdings. That wasn't the company name Locke had mentioned. She traced it carefully onto a piece of paper and slipped it into her pocket. Later, under the glow of a flashlight in her room, she studied it like a clue from one of her detective novels. Something wasn't right, and she was going to prove it. Her room became a mini command center. She pinned notes to her corkboard, scribbled overheard phrases. "Let him think it's his idea. No outside counsel. The old man's ripe for this." She timed Locke's visits, noted the way his team never left business cards with real job titles. And then came the day she slipped into the study while the assistant stepped away. The laptop screen was open, revealing tabs labeled Phase 1, Target, Phase 2, Transition, Phase 3, Liquidation. Next to her dad's name were words she didn't fully understand, but one thing stood out in bold red letters. Signature deadline. Thursday. Her heart sank. They weren't partners. They were predators, and they had a plan. That night, Lily tried to warn her dad. She told him about the contract, swapped the strange phrases, the fake company name. He sighed, rubbing his temples. Sweetheart, you shouldn't go through my papers. Business is complicated. Not everyone's out to get us. She swallowed hard. He didn't believe her. Not yet. The day of the signing arrived. The library was staged like a scene from a magazine spread. Coffee steaming on a silver tray. Fresh croissants. A gleaming fountain pen laid out on the table. Ethan sat at the head, quiet and contemplative. Across from him, Locke radiated confidence, flanked by his fake lawyer and the assistant. Lily stood just outside the heavy oak door, wearing her navy dress, the one her mom used to say made her look like a little lady. But she didn't feel like a lady. She felt like a soldier about to charge into battle. Mr. Carter, Locke said smoothly, "Our investors are eager to proceed. This is the best offer you'll see. Delays might complicate things." Ethan didn't answer, his hand hovering over the pen. That was Lily's cue. She pushed open the door so hard it banged against the wall. "Dad, stop!" she shouted, her voice sharp and trembling. "They're trying to scam you." The room froze. Locke's smile faltered. Ethan blinked in surprise. "Lily, what are you?" "They swapped the contracts." She cut in, her voice shaking but strong. "They're not investors. They're liars. I saw the papers. I heard them on the phone." "You're about to lose everything." Locke chuckled nervously. "Mr. Carter, she's a child. Surely you don't—" "You called him ripe." Lily snapped, her eyes blazing. "You said once he signed it was over. You switched the folders. You thought I wouldn't notice." For a split second, Locke's mask slipped. Panic flickered in his eyes before he tried to regain composure. "These are serious accusations from a 9-year-old. He scoffed. Lily pulled a folded sheet from her bag. "You left this in the printer. This version isn't the same one you gave him last week. And this company, Northbridge Holdings, it's not even real." She turned to her father, tears stinging her eyes. "Please, Dad, call your lawyer. Don't sign anything." The silence was deafening. Ethan studied the paper, then Locke's face, then the contract in front of him. Slowly, he closed the folder. "Adrian," he said softly, "you'll have to excuse us. This meeting is over." Locke's smile curdled. "If you walk away now, there will be consequences," he hissed. Ethan stood, his voice steady. "You just threatened the wrong man." By the time Locke realized their conversation had been recorded thanks to a small device Lily had hidden under the table, it was too late. Within 48 hours, Ethan's longtime attorney and a private investigator exposed everything. Northbridge was a shell company created 2 months earlier. Locke's lawyer wasn't licensed anywhere, and they'd been targeting retired executives across Europe and the US. The contracts were designed to drain accounts into offshore holdings the second Ethan signed. And the assistant, she'd been secretly photographing confidential documents during every visit. The trap Locke thought he'd set had been turned against him. When he returned to the estate thinking Ethan had reconsidered, 2 detectives in plain clothes met him at the door. "Adrian Locke, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and attempted grand larceny." Locke's face twisted as the cuffs clicked behind him. "You little brat," he spat, glaring at Lily. She didn't flinch. "You should have looked me in the eye," she said softly. The story hit the news like wildfire. Billionaire nearly conned, saved by his 9-year-old daughter. Reporters camped outside the gates, but Ethan turned them all away. "This isn't for the world," he told his lawyer. "This is for my daughter." Instead of interviews, he created the Lily Carter Foundation, teaching kids about ethics, critical thinking, and how to trust their instincts. In his study, next to a photo of Lily in that navy dress, he framed the forged contract, a reminder of what he almost lost, and who saved it. Weeks later, under the shade of an old oak tree in their garden, father and daughter sat with a mystery novel between them. Lily leaned against his shoulder, teasing, "Still mad." "I went through your papers." Ethan chuckled. "Mad Lily. I owe you everything. I would have signed it. I was tired. He knew how to make me feel important again." She looked up. "But you are important." He kissed her forehead. "Not because of my money, because of you." The leaves rustled above them like quiet applause. Lily didn't see herself as a hero. She wasn't taller than the men she exposed, didn't yell or fight, but she listened to that small voice inside that said something was wrong, and she spoke up when it mattered. Sometimes that's the bravest thing anyone can do. What about you? Have you ever trusted your gut and stopped something bad before it happened? Or maybe you ignored it and learned the hard way? Share your story in the comments. And if this reminded you of someone brave in your own life, hit like, subscribe. And let's talk about what courage really looks like, because sometimes the smallest voices change everything.